Before diving into species 3, I think it's important to do a little recap. In the first species, humans found DNA code sent to them from space and used it to make an alien species, Syl. Once she had grown and matured, which only takes a few days, she goes out on the town looking for anyone to mate with. The movie's full of nudity. It's kinda what it's known for. But if you can look past Natasha Henstridge's boobs, you might find something interesting. A unique sci-fi story. In Species 2, they get the bright idea to do the same thing again, but this time naming her Eve, although it's still played by Henstridge. Aside from her storyline, there's also this astronaut, Patrick, who managed to get some alien DNA in his body after a trip to Mars. He goes around reproducing and having a ton of kids. In the end, Patrick and Eve do the nasty, but then she turns on him and helps the humans kill alien Patrick. It ends with a dead Eve being loaded up in an ambulance, and that's where part 3 opens up, with the ambulance being driven by Dr. Bruce Abbott, who has some other ideas on what to do with Eve's body. He wants to win the Nobel Prize, and knows that there's only one way that he can do it, using Eve's DNA. Of course, there's gotta be a snafu. One of Patrick's offspring snuck into the ambulance, and he attacks Eve, who's still alive. While strangling her, Eve manages to give birth. It's pretty weird. The baby just kinda grows outside of her body. But that's enough for Dr. Abbott, who takes the baby girl back to his lab. Next, we see an old electric power plant, where deep inside, hidden behind 6 feet of concrete walls, is a nuclear fission reactor, which seems to be the science experiment for Dean. That's it, no last name, just Dean. He's some sort of super genius Dexter's Lab type of guy, because he's just a student at the university, yet he gets all this funding to make a fusion reactor?
I'd love to join you, but I gotta get back to class, so...
Well, anyway, we see that he's late for class. A class taught by Dr. Abbott, all about DNA and viruses. After that, we see his home lab, and the little baby he took from Eve is growing up.
I'm hungry.
And she's hungry, wanting some red lobster. That sounds pretty good right now, honestly. I better get some before they file for bankruptcy again.
Red lobster. For the seafood lover in you.
For dessert, they have some Sara Lee pie. She likes it so much that they decide to name her Sarah.
Sarah.
Later on, in Abbott's office at the university, he gets a visitor, Portis. He's the kid that strangled Eve in the ambulance not that long ago. Except he's all grown up. However, he's looking a little bit worse for wear, don't you think? He informs Abbott that he's one of the half-breeds that Patrick the astronaut had. Worse yet, there's others out there like him, all getting sick.
Some others are sick, too.
From what Abbott can tell, it seems to be just ordinary pollen that's killing him. His alien DNA not able to fight common infections found on Earth. Because Sarah is apparently a pure alien, she won't have this problem. But these guys, well, time's running short to find a cure. Abbott wants to help him. I'm not really sure why. I mean, this hasn't worked well in any of the other movies. Every other species has been aggressive towards humans, but he goes ahead with it anyway, knowing that he's gonna need some help. That's where he enlists Boy Wonder himself, Dean. Meanwhile, back home, Sarah cocoons herself up, and we see her final form. Okay, there's no way around this. Sarah's a knockout. I know she's supposed to attract a mate, but still, my goodness. Remember, I have to blur all of this for YouTube, meaning I have to go painstakingly, frame by frame, seeing what needs blurred. Sometimes multiple times, just to make sure. The sacrifices I make for you guys. Anyway, the dean of the school, Turner, comes over to discuss funding with Abbott and finds Sarah alone. At first, she comes on strong, and he's just like, screw it, she's too hot. But then, she rejects him.
That's enough.
Being able to sense that he's not a good genetic match. Not wanting to get the worst case of blue balls, Turner forces himself on her, which Sarah doesn't appreciate.
No.
Abbott and Dean come home to find Sarah and see what she did. Dean wants to call the cops, which is what they should do, but Abbott convinces him that they wouldn't understand and to just continue with their plan, dissecting the half-breed. While they work, Sarah comes down to tell them that she's heading out for the night, which Abbott has no problem with, knowing that Sarah's too picky for humans. But don't forget about the half-breeds. She meets with one of them and wastes no time getting it on. But, just like Turner, she senses something's wrong, a genetic defect in her mate that she doesn't want passing to her offspring. Back at Dean's dorm, his roommate Hastings found a wanted ad. This chick will sleep with you if you're a biochemist. Some warning bells should be going off right about now, but Hastings doesn't care. I mean, she is hot. Later on, in the basement lab, they need to get a blood sample from Sarah, which apparently she has to be naked for. I mean, I'm not complaining. While they work, a tentacle comes down from the ceiling, the half-breed attacking Sarah. They fight while the room is filled with hydrochloric gas, which should kill them both. Abbott already having what he needs from Sarah, her eggs. But Dean can't just sit back while the other creature attacks. They go in, save Sarah, but the half-breed manages to kill Abbott before the alien dies himself. In his last breath, he makes Dean promise to complete his work, making a new perfect species. At first he's like, no way, I'm done with all this. But then Sarah manages to persuade him. It didn't really take that much. Elsewhere, we see Amelia pulls into town, and I'll just say that she makes quite an entrance. She meets with Hastings, who has to come clean that he stole Dean's notes to get her here, which she isn't too happy about. But when Dean comes home, he spots her and takes off down the hall. She's just about to get him, but then she senses Sarah's presence and decides to team up with her instead. Outside, Dean meets with Agent Wasich.
Get in, Dean.
Who's been monitoring the situation from afar up until now.
Look, we've been down this road before, twice.
We see Hastings is being forced to work for a cure that he just isn't smart enough to make. Our heroes break in, flooding the lab with gas and forcing the aliens out. Hastings escaping with the eggs, and Amelia falls, looking a lot like Freddy Krueger. They lead Sarah to the electrical plant, where Dean's fusion core reactor's just chilling out. They play a game of cat and mouse for a while, until finally Dean leads her right into the core. But then, out of nowhere, Amelia shows up. I guess she's not dead. Instead of killing Dean, she makes out with him. Man, I can't keep up with these alien hormones. Well, all this kissing makes Sarah jealous, and the two species start to fight. While they're getting busy, Dean powers down the magnets, which will force the reactor to blow. The eggs fall into the core, so that's taken care of, but now Dean has to close the shaft. Otherwise, everyone will die. Now, I'm not sure if they mean everyone, as in Dean, Sarah, Hastings, and so on, or the entire world. To make it more dramatic, I'll say that if he doesn't close the shaft, the entire planet's gonna blow up. Sarah takes out Amelia, and Dean closes the shaft. But Amelia's not dead yet, and both aliens fall into the reactor. In the aftermath, Turner's blamed for the explosion at the plant, and everything else is covered up. 3 weeks later, Hastings goes over to Abbott's house to find a kid inside. So there's that. Then we see that Sarah's still alive too? Okay, what's going on here?
Hey.
Well, it turns out that during the explosion, Dean saved Sarah. On top of that, he fixed the defect in the half-breeds, making the second species and a whole separate line of DNA. When that kid's old enough, which is probably like 12 hours, him and Sarah walk off into the sunset. Hastings asked the question that we all want to know: what happens when they start popping out babies? Won't that mean the end of the human race? And Dean clarifies that he made this boy sterile, so that can't happen. But there's a fourth movie, so I'm guessing something didn't go quite right. And that was Species 3. I gotta be honest, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. By the third installment, my expectations were set pretty low. Now that I've seen the entire movie, I would say that they were met, but just barely. They tried to target a younger audience, so they made Dean a college student. But that just doesn't make sense. The man's a genius, smarter than everyone in the Big Bang Theory combined. Working with a nuclear core reactor? That's something Doc Ock couldn't even master. It's just kind of far-fetched. The special effects were pretty good for the most part. I would say Turner's death is the only standout bad effect, but hey, at least it's not CGI. And the gore was pretty good. There's holes through people's heads and other people getting sliced in half. Sarah's acting was a bit wooden. I get it's supposed to be. She's an alien, but Natasha Henstridge did it better. They are both knockouts though. I think I'm gonna have to keep this DVD locked up in a safe when my kids are teenagers. I give Species 3 2 blurred boobs out of 4.